Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at the fascinating journey of how humanity engineered the greatest system of trust ever created, the history of money. Thousands of years ago, there were no coins, no banknotes, and definitely no credit cards. Our ancestors lived in these small tribes focused entirely on just surviving, hunting, and gathering. But because no single tribe had absolutely everything it needed, they sparked a totally revolutionary idea: trade. But seriously, how did we go from trading animal skins to swiping digital cards on our phones? It's honestly the ultimate story of human problem solving. So we're going to look at how every single new form of money was really just a technological upgrade specifically designed to fix a fatal flaw in whatever system came before it. Starting with Section 1, the catalyst, the birth of trade and the barter bottleneck. To really grasp this, we have to go back to the very beginning. Small tribes survived through a really simple system of bartering meat, tools, and skins. And for small, tight-knit communities, this actually worked reasonably well. But as human civilization expanded and villages grew into these bustling cities, a massive problem popped up that threatened to halt trade entirely. Picture this. You're a farmer. You have a ton of wheat, and you desperately need an axe to clear your land. You find a blacksmith who happens to have an axe. Great, right? Well, no. The blacksmith doesn't want your wheat. He wants milk. If you can't find someone with milk who also wants your wheat, the entire trade system just crashes. Economists actually have a name for this massive bottleneck. They call it the double coincidence of wants. It's kind of a clunky name for a truly massive problem. To solve it, humanity realized they needed something universal, a medium that was valuable, portable, easily saved for later, and most importantly, something that absolutely everyone inherently trusted. So societies started using what we call commodity money. We're talking about things like livestock, salt, grain, tea, cocoa beans, even shells. Salt, for instance, was incredibly important in ancient societies simply because it was highly durable and super useful. The actual appearance of the object didn't matter at all, just as long as people trusted its underlying value. But of course, humanity hit another wall. I mean, think about it. How do you carry your entire fortune in cattle across hundreds of kilometers? It's a logistical nightmare. This was the new bottleneck. Goods spoiled over time, valuations varied wildly depending on what region you were in, and transportation was, well, basically impossible. Humanity desperately needed a major hardware upgrade. Which brings us to part 2, the hardware upgrade, the age of metal coins. To solve that terrible portability and spoilage problem, global trade shifted to highly durable, easily divisible pieces of precious metals. Gold, silver, and copper don't rot like food, and they are way easier to carry than a herd of cows. Initially, people just used pieces of unverified metal, but then, around the 6th century BCE, the Kingdom of Lydia, which is in modern-day Turkey, produced standardized coins from a gold-silver mix called electrum. Now, it wasn't just about the metal itself, it was about stamping an official mark on it. That meant people could instantly trust the coin's authenticity and weight without having to weigh it themselves every single time. Instant trust. And this standardization sparked massive innovation all over the globe. China utilized distinctive copper coins with holes in the center so they could be conveniently carried on strings. Meanwhile, ancient India developed intricate punch-marked silver coins and those really famous, highly artistic Gupta gold coins. Money was finally standardizing globally, and that drastically accelerated the long-distance trade of silk, spices, and precious goods. But scaling up like this introduced a very dangerous physical friction. Ask yourself, what happens when money gets too heavy? Imagine being a merchant tasked with guarding thousands of incredibly heavy metal coins across long, really dangerous trade routes. The constant risk of theft, plus the sheer physical weight of it all, forced commerce into another completely revolutionary pivot. Section 3. The software upgrade. Paper and receipts. So the solution to the weight of metal was actually a profound abstraction. Merchants started depositing their heavy coins with trusted money handlers, wealthy merchants, or early financial institutions, and in return, they received written paper receipts. They quickly realized a huge shortcut here. Why drag the heavy metal around when you can just trade the paper receipt instead? We see this paper money evolving from Chinese flying money documents in the Tang Dynasty to the government officially issuing Jiaozi currency during the Song Dynasty. Later, Kublai Khan expanded this paper system massively. Eventually, this wild concept shocked Europe, leading to Sweden's Stockholm's Bunko issuing early European banknotes in 1661 and eventually the establishment of the Bank of England in 1694. A great example of this is India's highly sophisticated Hundi system. A merchant deposits heavy coins in City A, gets a Hundi document, travels safely and lightly to City B, and receives equivalent coins from a totally different trusted intermediary. This bypassed the dangers of physical transport entirely. It relied heavily on an amazing network of pure financial trust. But wait, we have to pause and ask the most fundamental question here. What gives a simple piece of paper its power and value? When the famous traveler Marco Polo first saw paper money being used in China, he literally couldn't believe it. How on earth could paper equal gold? Well, this leads us directly into how modern societies had to rigorously convince everyday people to trust mere paper. Part 4. The System Crash, from the Gold Standard to Fiat. Because early populations inherently trusted physical gold and silver way more than some printed piece of paper, governments realized they had to build a rock-solid bridge of confidence between the two. So they created the gold standard. This was a monetary system where a country's paper currency was directly linked to a specific amount of physical gold securely held by a central authority. Paper was only valuable because it represented a literal piece of gold sitting safely in a vault somewhere. And you know what? This worked perfectly, until the world economy exploded in size and complexity. The breaking point really began in 1929. The Wall Street crash and the subsequent Great Depression revealed a fatal flaw in the gold standard. Businesses collapsed, unemployment soared, and governments desperately wanted to print money to stimulate and save their collapsing economies. But they couldn't. They were completely handcuffed by their limited physical gold supply. So a temporary fix was attempted after World War II at Bretton Woods in 1944. A new system was designed where global currencies were linked to the US dollar, and the US dollar was linked to gold at a fixed official rate. This essentially made the US dollar the backbone of international finance. But once again, history repeated itself. The rapidly expanding global economy simply outpaced America's physical gold reserves. Which brings us to another massive number, 1971. This marks the famous Nixon Shock of August 15, 1971, when U.S. President Richard Nixon announced that the U.S. would suspend the dollar's convertibility into gold. This single monumental decision effectively ended the traditional international gold-based monetary system forever. And finally, Section 5, the resolution, fiat money and the digital future. With the gold standard officially severed, humanity was abruptly pushed into a completely new era where money had absolutely no physical backing whatsoever. Welcome to the era of fiat money. Honestly, it's wild to realize that today's money buys houses, education, and food simply because of government authority, legal recognition, robust economic systems, and, most importantly, public trust. Millions of people accept a piece of paper today simply because they trust that everyone else will accept it tomorrow. It's a collective agreement. And now, right before our eyes, the form of money has changed yet again. We are deep into the digital era. Physical banknotes are fast becoming obsolete. Today, money is essentially just digital data flying across the globe in seconds via phones, cards, and online banking platforms. We've stripped away almost all the physical friction we used to have with heavy metals and paper. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder from this explainer. Money has always been built on trust, because from bartering cattle and salt to stamping metal coins to trading paper receipts, right down to our modern digital swipes, the technology constantly changes. But the true currency, the only reason any of this works, has always been human trust. So as we look to the future in even more radical digital transformations of wealth, the most important question to ask isn't about how advanced the technology is. It's simply this: do you trust it?